Hi, I'm Mason Marangella from Vertex Effects, aka The Rig Doctor. And with me today is my good buddy Tim Marco, an amazing guitar player and artist. Welcome today, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're going to be talking about our brand new pedal, the Steel String Mark II Slight Return Edition. And it is one channel of the SSS Slight Return Edition in a compact pedalboard friendly format. The SSS line is one of our most popular pedals that we've ever made, but some people, however, didn't need the additional EQ channel of the SSS. That pedal also has the ability to be able to drive any sort of IR loader or cabinet simulation, which this does not do. But if you have a great amplifier, a tube amp, solid state amp, whatever it might be, and you want to get the essences of that Dumble style tone, this is certainly going to be a great pedal for you. And we're going to demonstrate more on why that is today and how to really integrate this into your pedal board to get that D style tone. So today we're going to do a few things. We're going to obviously be playing through the pedal, but I also have a special treat for everybody, and including you, Tim, is that I have some isolated tracks of a Dumble Steel String Singer amplifier. We're going to do a little Mary Had a Little Lamb, which is a cover of a Buddy Guy version of the nursery rhyme Mary Had a Little Lamb. And we're also going to get to hear one of the sections off of the David Bowie record, Let's Dance. And in that particular recording with David Bowie, it's pretty well documented that he was using a Dumble that belonged to Jackson Browne to record some of that stuff. So we're going to get to hear that Dumble sound in isolation. And we're going to try to kind of transplant some of those tones using the Steel String Mark II Slight Return Edition and trying to get those sounds out of a rig using kind of, I'm not going to say everyday stuff that everybody has access to, but roughly kind of similar instruments. We have the pedal, we have Strats that we're going to be using. We're going to be using a Hot Rod DeVille for the amplifier today. And we're going to have on a little bit of chorus today from the DC2W. But other than that, it's all standard stuff. We're not doing any trickery. It's going straight in to our DAW. And I think we can do some cool stuff today listening to some of those tracks, trying to reinterpret some of it with the pedal, and also just playing some cool licks with the pedal and kind of showing people at home what they might expect should they decide to buy one of these guys. So Tim, let's stop the talking. Let's go into just maybe a little plain. I'm going to start with it off so we kind of get our bass tone reference of what we have between the guitar and the amplifier. So let's just hear what we got. So let's have you play again, and then I'll bring in the steel string, and we'll see if we can impart some more of that D-style vibe. So straight off the bat, when we brought that in as a player, what are the differences you're hearing?
Yeah, so there's a added fatness that's coming in. It's kind of like bringing the bottom end up, and it's kind of tightening some of the frequencies. So I guess that would be compression. It's compressing a little bit and makes it a little bit easier to play. You have like a little bit more sustain. And just kind of bumps it up a notch like a boost, but also adds fatness to it.
The other thing I noticed about this pedal just in general, and of course we've been making versions of the steel string pedal for many years, is that one differentiator of the Slight Return Edition is that it adds that extra mid-range punch in just that really beautiful glassy top end that is just quintessential Dumble clean tone that many of the most famous players that used the steel string amplifier had in their amps. If you just had a tube screamer on, which is an amazing pedal to pair with this, it doesn't provide enough of that glass because it becomes so mid-range that you maybe lose a little bit of that definition of the top end. Now, sometimes the glass can be too much in certain amps. You have a really bright amp and you don't want that much glass. The rock jazz switch in the middle is a really valuable tool for that because you can kind of take some of that edge off if you don't want it. So even though I think that it's appropriate in the position we have it now, which is the rock position, I'm just going to move it into the jazz as you're playing a little bit so people kind of have a reference point for how it maybe thins out the tone a little bit. And maybe for this setup, it doesn't work as well. But if we had a really bright amp and we wanted to tame that, it might be nice to kind of mellow it out. So go ahead, Tim, and play a little bit, and then I'll bring it in and out. So what are you hearing here when I'm kind of toggling back in between the rock and jazz?
Yeah, it's just kind of taming those highs a little bit, which is nice. It's like a subtle effect. I don't think this amp is overly bright, so we don't
No.
really need it. We kind of want that glass on
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can imagine if you had a really kind of bright, like a, I don't know, like a Fender Twin or something, like,
Yeah.
and it was like super clean, you might want to tame that stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's really just more of a voicing switch. It's like, depending on whatever the combination of guitar, amplifier, maybe other pedals that you might be stacking, maybe you prefer a little bit brighter overdrive, and then you kind of want to use this to smooth everything out at the end, kind of using it almost like an amp in a box type of thing. It can just be a useful thing. And this is really where some of the big differentiators of this version comparatively to the standard Steel String Mark II really differentiate themselves is kind of in the voicing that we chose. It's got a little bit more of that upper mid-range and top end bite when you're in the rock position, and it is a little mellower when you go into the jazz position. But I want to put it to the test against actual recordings of a Dumble Steel String Singer amplifier. So I want to bring in some of these ISO tracks, want to just listen to a little bit of it with you, and then see if we can kind of like emulate some of that stuff. So let's listen to a little bit of Let's Dance from David Bowie. And then maybe we'll listen to another one following that. So let's listen to this one first. Let's see what we got. So you kind of got a sense of the vibe. What are you kind of hearing in the track, and what do you think we need to do here to kind of get that?
There's a lot of bite and
Yeah.
like kind of upper mids, especially when he gets up for the soloing stuff. There's like it's like compressed upper mids, lots of bite. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
And also one thing that surprised me is there's quite a bit of reverb on it, which I don't necessarily. I mean, we know he used amps with reverb, but it definitely was very verby.
Yeah, there's like an echo on that? Some sort of slapback or something?
I can't tell if it's the room and they use more room mics, or if it was that there is some slap on it. I know for sure there's the Dimension C. That's pretty well documented that he used it on that record again after the microphone. And so we're kind of emulating that with our Dimension C as well, where we're using it after the line out of the Fender amplifier so that we can kind of try to recreate that aux send thing that he used to do with the DC or the Dimension D rack unit. I mean, what else do you think that we need to do here? We're obviously going to be using the steel string slight return. I definitely think we should stay in the rock position, probably exaggerate a little bit of the top end there, and then maybe we'll bring in a tube screamer and kind of help get it, because certainly he probably would have been using that for that recording.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's see if we can dial that in, and let's compare. So we did a little bit of Let's Dance. Let's have a little listen to Mary Had a Little Lamb. Now, this was famously recorded by Buddy Guy, but has been re-recorded by many of our favorite blues guitarists out there. Let's see if we can maybe get an idea of how we might recreate that. So let's have a listen. All right, so we heard a little clip of Mary Had a Little Lamb isolated. What are you hearing from this? How might we want to set this up to kind of nail some of those tones?
Sounds pretty aggressive, and you can kind of hear it, especially when he's doing like the palm muting stuff. So I would definitely crank the gain all the way up.
Okay.
For this, I would do the filter pretty much in the center.
Okay.
And on the rock setting, because it's going to be more bottom end.
And I think definitely still keeping on the Dimension C again. He was known to use that on this album, and certainly the Tube Screamer was likely on as well.
For sure.
So let's try to play a little section of it, and let's see what we got. I would say for two guys sitting in a home studio with a guitar pedal and an amplifier and a couple of strats, I feel like we're in the zone. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I mean, this pedal definitely like kind of takes it to the next level, with that compression, some of the top end, kind of giving you like a amp on edge of breakup kind of stuff, or kind of pushing, like an amp-like sound. Also, it fills in something that the Tube Screamer's not doing.
Yep.
So the Tube Screamer's getting a lot of the low mids,
Right.
and this is getting more of the actual like lows
Yep.
and the higher mids.
Mhm.
So the bite,
Mhm.
those two they complement each other very well.
Yep.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, and just to show it, now if I turn off the Steel String Slight Return and you play it without it, just kind of playing a little, and then I bring it in.
Yeah.
It's
big difference.
It's a huge difference in just the body of the sound. It just comes alive and makes everything really stand out.
It's really fun to play, for sure.
Any final thoughts about the tones we got today, the pedal, things that people out there on the internet should know?
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's just nice to have that sort of sound in such a small package on a board. Even if you're playing like a Fender amp, you can go between the Fender cleans and then the more Dumble kind of things. And it just sweetens the tone.
Yeah.
It's very, very nice.
Yeah. This was a blast. I had a lot of fun listening to some hit songs that had an actual Dumble Steel String Singer on them to compare this pedal with. Will you play a little something to play us out for today?
For sure.